Alright, thank you very much. Hello everybody, it's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm back in action with another review, this time an anime review. You know, I got into anime a long time ago thanks to Queen's Blade. That was my first one ever. And then ever since then, been watching a show here, watching a show there. And this is one of those shows that really attempts to dethrone the Queen, so to speak. It was really good, but unfortunately just not up there to the Queen's Blade standards. And of course I'm talking about Freezing. Freezing is a very good anime, don't get me wrong. It's about this group of girls, obviously as you can see, who are called Pandoras. And their job is to fight these interdimensional beings known as Novas. Nobody just really knows who they are or where they came from. They try to explain it at the end of Season 2, and it just made me even more confused. I was happy with them just being aliens. But when it comes to Freezing, it comes in two parts, and I'll explain those two parts here in a moment. The main part about Freezing is it focuses on this girl here, Setalizer Bridget. She is a Pandora. Very strong, very powerful. Not the strongest, not the most powerful, but gosh darn it, if she ain't the most determined of them all. She definitely does anything and everything to fight the good fight and make sure she wins. You have to realize something about Freezing. It is not really about Pandora versus Nova. It's not about humanity versus the aliens. It's about the Pandoras versus the Pandoras. They're in a military school. They're in a combat school. Egos run very high. You have to remember that in a group like this, you can't have somebody who's going to wuss out. You need somebody who will always stand up and fight regardless of the circumstances, whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's even necessary. It's a very violent show, and everybody has their own special ability. When you become a Pandora, you are able to get, swords, lances, ray guns, stuff like that. And they're all very powerful. Some more powerful than others. This is a school, and despite being a school, these guys are usually the first sent in to fight. Yeah, I didn't really understand that part. But whatever. It's just an anime show, so I'll roll with it. Every Pandora has a limiter, and this was something that I was going to be afraid that killed the story. It's this guy right here. He is really just a student. He's learning to be a limiter, and yet he seems to have this amazingly powerful limiter ability. He and Setalizer Bridget are friendly yet at odds with each other. She has a real problem with guys. He finds an odd attraction to her. Gotta be careful not to say too much because this is all part of the plot. And, it develops throughout. And that's the point of the first season, is him meeting her, them learning to work together and, fighting Novas and stuff like that. It's all about the relationships in this first one. Even though there is plenty of mention, the Novas never go away. Of course, they show up at the end for the climactic battle. Hope that's not saying too much. He starts off as really annoying. I really struggled with him. He grows on you. You eventually learn to accept him, but it was not an easy road. I often call him the annoying one, or annoying boy. I'm not going to pronounce his name, because I cannot pronounce his name. It's in Japanese. Sorry. I do not want to disgrace that language with my northeastern pronunciation attempt. That said, let's talk about this. Oh, this is what really separates it from Queen's Blade, though. The blood and the violence. It's just as violent as Queen's Blade. Only here you will have blood splattering. You will have madness. You will just have, amazing techniques. You will have the fan service. You always got to have the fan service. And it's definitely here as always. See, obviously, Freezing is a see it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed both seasons. I was hoping there'd be a Season 3. I haven't seen anything on a Season 3, but it's not going to show up here anytime soon. They first have to release it in Japan. I often wonder about that. Why are so many animes only 2 seasons? Especially the adult animes. This is clearly not for kids. Not with all the blood, the violence, the nudity, and all the innuendos. It's not for kids for sure. Alright, Season 1. Basically, it's a good introduction season. It's kind of long, but they keep your interest. You meet who's who. They do create this mystery of who's who. And of course, you've got this clicks here and clicks there, and they're all trying to get at each other, and of course they're also trying to get at Satellizer Bridget. Satellizer Bridget was known as the untouchable queen until Doofus there showed up, and he basically made her touchable. Now everyone sees her as being weak and vulnerable. Thus, they start to go after her. They start to go after her pretty seriously. And that's where the whole thing is about. Freezing, by the way, is something I didn't explain well enough. If you want to attack a Nova, first off, you have to be a chick. If you want to attack a Nova, you have to. The Nova create this field where you will be frozen within. You can't move. The Limiter, the boys, it is their job to counteract that field and even create their own freezing field. So if you are fighting a Pandora, the Limiter will set up a freezing field. If you are the opponent, you will be frozen and you can't move. Makes you a pretty easy target. However, that's why Pandoras have their own limiters to shoot past the other person's limiter and give movement to both sides. Very interesting combat techniques. Very interesting formula. And I like that in Season 1, it's just a pure introduction. So you get the idea of who's who, what's what, and how it all works. They don't rush it too fast. And they give you a good idea of what's happening. Now, Season 2. We already know what's happening. But now there's a different element. There are something called E-Pandoras, or Pandoras Evolved, or the next generation of Pandora. These are girls who were not born with the special genes. They weren't born with the special powers. And these girls have that kind of resentment that because they weren't born special, they couldn't be Pandoras. Apparently, with this new government program, they can, though it is mysterious. Things are not as they seem, and a humongous conspiracy results. And it was really good. I enjoyed it. You know, I am so used to having, like in Queen's Blade 2 Rebellion, it just all fell apart in the second season. I had no idea what they were doing. I don't even think they knew what they were doing. And the ending just killed the show. No wonder why there was no Season 3. This one kept going. This one kept the interest and, you know, had some interesting situations happen. Not to mention the fact that they tried to explain the Nova in a very confusing way. I kind of got it. I kind of didn't get it. But it did not take away from my enjoyment of the show whatsoever. What really made this show were its strong characters. And that's really what made it great. And I really enjoyed Freezing. So if you haven't checked it out yet, Freezing is definitely an anime show to be enjoyed. Well, guys, that's it for me today. We will see you at the theaters.